Hey everyone, Final here. Today, I'll be showing you a handful of quick and easy paint schemes for Ork Skin. I'll be doing things a little bit different today. I don't have a full paint list because each scheme is separate. As I said earlier, I'll only be painting the skin and maybe a few other faction agnostic details to show the skin tone a little bit better. I'll recap the colors at the end, so feel free to skip around as needed. With that being said, if you do want to see a full painting video for an orc, feel free to check out my quick and easy Armageddon War Boss video. Anyway, let's get to it. The first paint scheme that I'm doing is a contrast heavy one, and to help with that, I primed the model with Gray Sear. Contrast paints, similar to washes, will end up pooling naturally in the recesses. To help contrast with the dark recesses a bit better, I'll be doing a highlight, or I guess a pre-highlight, by dry brushing with White Scar. I'm trying to catch all of the raised edges and surfaces. Anything that gets hit by the White Scar will have a brighter result at the end. You can go as heavy or light as you like, depending on how thick you want your highlights to be. I'm going pretty light with mine. I just want to highlight the raised edges and the highest points on the muscle. It's a little hard to see with the light, but for things like the brow line, the lips, the veins on the arms, those are all brighter now. Then, I'll go in and wash all of the skin using Ork Flesh, thinned 4:1 with contrast medium. If you don't have contrast medium on hand, you can use the Ork Flesh straight out of the pot. The contrast medium helps it flow a little bit better, so that the pooling isn't as harsh. If it does pool too much in some areas, just use your brush to soak it back up. Even before the Ork Flesh is dry, you can see the difference that the dry brushing made. I'll give this about 30 to 45 minutes to dry up. And that's really it. We're all done with this one. It's a nice, solid green color that really didn't take any effort at all. Now, if this one is a little bit too cartoonishly green, or you want a little bit more of a color gradient, this next one is another really quick and easy one. This one also relies on contrast paints, so once again, I'll be relying on my Gray Sear primer. And also, once again, I'll be dry brushing with White Scar to highlight the raised areas. There we go, edges are nice and bright, and now I'll be washing it with my contrast paint. This time, I'll be using Plague Bearer Flesh, thinned 4:1 with contrast medium. Plague Bearer Flesh is a more muted, yellowish color, and definitely not as bright and vibrant as the Ork Flesh. As always, if you don't have contrast medium on hand, feel free to go straight out of the pot. The contrast medium just helps it flow a little bit better, but is definitely optional. There we go, one slightly sickly looking orc. Realistically, if this is the color that you want, you could stop here. It's a little too yellow for me, so after the Plague Bearer Flesh dries, I'll green it up a little bit using BL Tan Green, thinned 3:1 with Lamian Medium. BL Tan Green appears very translucent while you're painting it on. It's definitely one of those trust the process colors. Almost as easy as the last one, but instead of being cartoonishly green, now there's a nice yellow to green gradient. This next one is just as easy as the last one, but we'll be putting away the contrast paints. Because we'll be going back to a base paint, you're not strictly limited to which primer to use. I still used Gray Sear here, but you could easily use something like Wraithbone, Deathguard Green, or even Xandri Dust. Then I'll be painting on 2 thin coats of Ork Flesh. The Ork Flesh is a really thin color, and the coverage isn't great. That's why you really want to stick with a light colored primer here. It's doable if you use something like Chaos Black, but you might end up needing 3 to 4 coats. The Ork Flesh is very similar to the Plague Bearer Flesh in the last paint scheme. It's just much more solid. To add some depth to it, I'll be washing the skin using Athonian Camo Shade. This one was thin enough already, so I won't be using any Lamian Medium. The Athonian Camo Shade reminds me of a greenish Agrax Earth Shade, and once I let it dry, you can see that it has a very similar effect. It's kind of a dirty green shade. To clean it up a little bit, I'll be doing a heavy dry brush using Ork Flesh. The goal is to fix up the raised areas while also avoiding the recesses. There we are, almost done. For my last step, I want to brighten up the raised edges a little bit. To do that, I'll do a very light dry brush using Nurgling Green. Just go light with this one. If it's applied too heavily, the Nurgling Green actually overpowers the Ork Flesh. And here's the end result. It's still a nice light green orc color, but just a bit cleaner, without the splotchiness of the contrast paints. This next paint scheme will give you a more muted green. I'm once again using Gracier Primer here, but it really doesn't matter what color you pick. Just pick something on the brighter side. For my base color, I'll be painting on Death Guard Green. If you end up priming it with Death Guard Green, I would still do one layer using the base paint, just to make sure everything is uniform. And you can see what I mean. It's a nice green, but much more muted than the other ones. To add a little bit more green to it, I'll be washing it with Biel Tan Green, thinned 3:1 with Lamian Medium. Feel free to play around with the ratios. You would use less Lamian Medium if you want it greener, or add more Lamian Medium if you want it closer to the base color. You can see some of the green coming back, especially after it dries. Now going the other way, I'm going to mute the green a little bit by doing a heavy dry brush using Elysian Green. This will give us a more muted color, but leaning more towards green. I'm not done with the dry brushing yet. Now I'll be doing a light dry brush on the raised areas using Ogren Camo. And here's the end result for that one. Now the last few have been a lighter green color. This last one is leaning towards a dark green again, but not a cartoonish green, it's more of a muted one. I'm still using Gracier Primer, but whatever color should work. For the base layer, I'll be using Wa Flesh. Some of you may recognize this from my War Boss video. The Wa Flesh will give us a much darker foundation for the orc skin. The Wa Flesh is surprisingly thin, so you'll definitely need 2 or even 3 thin coats. To darken those recesses, I'll wash all of the skin using Biel Tan Green, thinned 3:1 with Lamian Medium. I know it's starting to look cartoonishly green again, but just trust the process. To make the skin look a little bit more natural, I'll do a heavy dry brush using War Boss Green. As always, try to go perpendicular to the recesses, that way you don't ruin them. Now he's doing a lot better. To brighten up the edges, I'll be doing a very light dry brush using Moot Green. The Moot Green is very bright and will easily overpower the other colors, so do keep it very light. And there we are, a nice dark green color. Now before I do the final showcase, I'll give the faces a little bit more definition. So for the mouths I'll use Volupus Pink, for the teeth and nails I'll use Rakarth Flesh, and Agrax Earthshade, and for the eyes I'll use White Scar and Blood Angel's Red Contrast. And finally, here's 5 quick and easy paint schemes for orc skin. If you're new to orcs, and like me, you started out trying to do research on what colors to use, it probably was a little bit overwhelming how many different ways there are to paint orcs. Hopefully I was able to help you out by giving you a more visual guide. Of course, definitely feel free to experiment. You can use these paint schemes as a foundation, and then mix and match colors until you find the perfect scheme for you. If you want to see these guys finished up, I'll finish them up in the coming days, so keep an eye out for some new shorts and reels. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.